Tai Tuivasa is set to take on Greg Hardy at UFC 264 on July 10th. Tuivasa will be making his way back to the cage after recently getting a TKO victory over Harry Hunsucker, while Hardy hasn't been seen since his defeat against Marcin Tybura. This is set to be a major bout, should really add some, power and heavyweight to the 264 card, which has been mostly lower weight classes so far. Boys, initial reaction on this. Like the fight, hate it? What do you think?
It's a good fight. It's a good fight for both guys, I think. More so for Greg Hardy, who needs to, constantly prove his place in the UFC, even after so many fights under his belt already. It always feels like he has 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the door. Not because of his dedication to the sport, but by public reaction every time he fights and when he does leave the cage without a win. He's suffered a couple of losses in the UFC now, in that 1-0 contest, but it's going to be interesting to see how he improves off of the loss to Tybura. And with Tuivasa riding in on a 2-fight win streak, can he keep it going against a controversial figure? A lot of people will be watching because, Tai Tuivasa is a fan favorite. Everybody loves the shoey, right? So they want to see the shoey knock out the ex-NFL superstar. So it's going to be interesting from a lot of different angles. But mainly for me, as always, really, throughout his career, what improvements are we going to see from Greg Hardy when he steps in there?
Yeah, no, I agree with Matt. It's all about kind of seeing what Greg Hardy will show up in this fight. And the obvious improvements that he needs to make are in the cardio department, because that let him down tremendously in his fight against a Marcin Tybura, who is just a whole lot more experienced, has been around for a good while now, has been in there with a lot higher level of competition. That was kind of another attempt at maybe fast-tracking Hardy. Not that they necessarily were doing that prior. They were kind of giving him the slow build, but of course he stepped in against Alexander Volkov for that bout. So they tried to, kind of push him a little bit with the Tybura one. Backfired. Very not great. He did look all right in the first round, though. That's the thing about Greg Hardy, is that we have seen that he is, a talented MMA fighter, as much as some people might not want to admit it for, reasons. But it all comes down to if he can evolve or just condition himself a little bit better. I think that's the big thing, obviously, as we've just seen in multiple fights, not just the last one now. And taking on a guy who like Tai Tuivasa, who is, just that dude bro banger kind of guy who goes in there, it's bam, bam, right? So he just throws hands and is very durable as well. And I feel like this is a better matchup for him, because we have seen that he can last and is always dangerous, can take a shot. He's only been knocked out, by Junior Dos Santos, and that was before Junior got knocked out 4 times in a row, like before he really started to go downhill, unfortunately. But not a bad loss, not a bad guy to get knocked out by. And we've seen him take some very hard shots outside of that as well against some big hitters. So I think that this has potential to be pretty wild, especially in the first round. But because of the fact that Tuivasa is not going to let him breathe and going to, stand and bang with him, I think that it's going to be even bigger test for Hardy if this fight gets out of that first round. So this is a really important one for him, just to show that, if he can fix that hole, which is going to be a problem against anybody, higher up in the rankings. And so, yeah, we'll find out a lot here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly a good test, in my opinion. I think it's a great matchup. You have Tuivasa, who, was on a 3-fight skid, was cut apparently from the UFC, didn't fight anywhere else, and then was brought back to fight Stefan Struve, won that fight, then beats Harry Hunsucker, and now is getting to continue his opportunity in the UFC. But obviously he's not in the greatest standing if he had just gotten cut before 2020. And then you've got Hardy, who they've tried to build up, and they pushed him once before against Alexander Volkov, who, just dispatched of him pretty easily. Then he rattled off a couple more wins. And in the Tybura fight, that was kind of a lower ranked guy that they really thought Hardy would be able to get through. And in the first round, it certainly looked like he was on his way to doing that, but he gassed. We know he's had asthmatic problems and that type of stuff before. One of his, no contest comes from using an inhaler in between rounds. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because as you mentioned, Drake, Tuivasa does have a really good chin. He's been knocked out once, but he's eaten some big shots, and Hardy has to really get Tuivasa out of there, because otherwise it's going to be constant pressure. And will Hardy be able to last that long is anyone's guess. We've seen him last that long sometimes, and we've seen him completely fold due to breathing issues other times. So it's really a big question mark. And Matt, as you put it, definitely want to see how much he's improved, right? Because he seems to make these leaps and bounds in between fights. He is a good MMA fighter, regardless of other things going on in his life. He's shown a lot of improvement fight to fight. It will be very interesting to see what he can do to maybe reserve that gas tank or make sure he doesn't run into cardio issues against, nonstop Tuivasa, who's won't let up. Unless you knock Tuivasa out, I assume he's going to be in your face throwing bombs the entire time. Even if he's maybe a little labored in round 3, he's still going to be throwing quite a bit. So I love this matchup. Think it's a great test for both guys, and I'm excited to see it go down. Let us know in the comments what you think about the matchup. Is it the right fight to make for Tuivasa and Hardy? Do you think they should be matched up with other people? Let us know your thoughts on it, how much it adds to UFC 264 for you. Already looking like a pretty stacked card. Let us know if that's one you're really keen on watching. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification button. And until, UFC 264, I guess we'll just have to wait and see whether or not the Shoey beats the former NFL guy.